The name Andretti is a name that is well known throughout the motorsport world, and the patriarch of the Andretti family, Mario Andretti, is a name that I like to throw into the ring whenever the topic of the greatest of all time comes up, in terms of an all-round driver that is. Because he's the only man to win the Formula One World Championship, the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500, and his sons Michael and Jeff, as well as his nephew John and his grandson Marco, well, they're all racing drivers, the lot of them. Even his twin brother Aldo, I think, probably. Should have really researched that, shouldn't I? But it's Michael that we're concentrating on here today. Now, Michael had a brief run in Formula One in 1993, driving for McLaren, but he failed to live up to the hype of being the son of Mario Andretti. He did, however, score a podium at the 1993 Italian Grand Prix, but that was pretty much career over, in Formula One that is. He was then replaced by Mika Hakkinen. So Michael went back to America, and after the 2003 Indy 500 he retired from full-time racing and bought into Team Green, which later became Andretti Green Racing. Now, over the years that business has expanded, and with Ryan Walkinshaw and Zach Brown of United Autosports and Walkinshaw Racing, there is now Walkinshaw Andretti United in the Australian Supercars Championship, carrying on from the legendary Holden factory team. Andretti also has teams in Extreme E and Formula E, as well as pretty much everything else on the planet, it seems. And now it's rumoured that he wants to come back to Formula One, not as a driver because he's nearly 60 years old, but as a part owner looking to buy into Sauber, or Alfa Romeo. Now, Sauber's been around for a long time in Formula One. Well, before Formula One it was in the Group C era of endurance racing, and it then moved into Formula One in 1993. Since it arrived in Formula One, it's been one of those perpetual mid-grid teams with the odd flash of brilliance, such as Sergio Perez almost winning the 2012 Malaysian Grand Prix and scoring a multitude of podiums with drivers such as Nick Heidfeld, Johnny Herbert, and others. And yes, I know you're going to start bombarding me in the comments about Kubica at Montreal in 2008, but that's dependent on whether or not you class BMW Sauber as Sauber. Now, in 2021, Alfa Romeo Sauber is a team that is the last team on the grid to announce who will be filling its vacant seat for 2022. The fans want Giovinazzi to keep his seat. The Poles want Kubica to take the seat from Gio, but there is also Guan Yu Zhu, who is rumoured to be bringing about €30 million worth of sponsorship, but on top of that, there's rumours that dumping Gio for the Chinese Formula 2 driver will seriously ruin Sauber's long-term relationship with Ferrari. However, could Andretti buying into Sauber help improve Formula One's image in the United States, and maybe even bring an American driver into the sport, because we haven't seen a US driver in Formula One since Scott Speed. There has obviously been two Canadians in Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll. And with Haas nosediving over the last 18 months or so, and the team now pretty much owned by Dimitri Mazepin, and now Williams in the hands of American-owned Dorito, whatever they're called, Capital, Andretti has actually been looking at all three. On one side, you've got Haas, which is an American team, and buying that team would keep it American. Teaming with Williams would mean one of the biggest names in motorsport and one of the biggest privateers in motorsport coming together for pure marketing. And then you've got Sauber potentially opening the door for a new American team if Haas does get sold to Mazepin Sr. There's a bit of a snag with this, and it involves the €200 million in entry fees alone. I know, it's ridiculous. So Andretti announced back in March that the Andretti Acquisition Company hopes to raise about $250 million through an initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange. How initial public offerings work, I have no clue. I mentioned them before with the whole Santander and Ferrari thing back in about 2008-2009, but if Andretti does buy the lot, the race says that he won't have to cough up that $200 million. The race also points out that Sauber has a top-of-the-range wind tunnel and a top-of-the-range simulator, two assets that any potential buyer would love to get their hands on. That wind tunnel was supposed to be used by Bugatti to develop the Veyron, but while the wind tunnel was pretty damn good, it wouldn't go up to the 400 km an hour, 250 miles an hour, that Bugatti was aiming for. It also opens the door for a potential partnership with McLaren, a technical partnership that is, and Andretti can also bring over some hot prospect IndyCar talent from the United States over to Europe. Drivers such as Colton Herta, Patricio Award, they're the ones that usually get put forward as drivers that could potentially come over to Formula One from IndyCar. There's then the opportunity to bring over the big money American sponsors, and that might all add up to giving IndyCar fans something new to follow. They can follow the IndyCar guys coming over and, who knows, maybe even kicking some European ass. It could even pave the way for a return of the Phoenix, Romain Grosjean, because he's just signed for Andretti for 2022. Although if this all goes ahead, we're looking at 2024 when it all sort of kicks off, so maybe Grosjean might be a bit too old by that point, but hey, it's options. And before I get crucified in the comments again, I should point out that Patricio O'Ward, who has the best name on the planet, let's be honest, is at McLaren Arrow SP, or whatever they're called, although he did do Indy Lights with Andretti, so if he did ever come to Formula One, it's most likely that he'd go to McLaren. Although, like I said, there's the potential hookup with McLaren for Andretti, although Zach Brown did come out and say that any operation run by Andretti would be totally separate from McLaren, but, you know, minds can change. Could it also open the door for maybe Chevrolet or Ford or another American engine manufacturer to come in? You know, maybe around the same time VW does, if that indeed happens, and all of that I covered earlier in the week. But currently in IndyCar, Andretti is using Honda engines, and Honda is out of Formula One at the end of this year, and the F1 engine operation will then be taken over by Red Bull, so there's a whole other load of intrigue and speculation to things, along with a multitude of livery concepts that are probably going to flood Instagram in the next month or so. Although a DHL liveried car in Formula One, I mean, Jordan 2003 throwbacks, that'll get the nostalgia tingling. But it must be said here that there is nothing concrete or imminent going on, and although Andretti is never saying never, at the same time it wants to keep an eye on the 7 categories that they're currently involved in. Although, as there often is on the internet, there are rumours going around that Andretti and Gamebridge, one of the sponsors of the IndyCars, have already done a deal to at least part-own Sauber ready for 2023, but I don't believe it personally. But either way, if the team is going to do well in the future, it's going to need a significant funding boost. Could American corporate money help with that? But I don't know. It's all speculation, rumour, and pulling stuff out of one's own arse at this point, but I'd like to hear your opinions on this, because after all, that is what I do this series for. You know, I give my opinions on stuff that's happening in the real world of motorsport, like the breaking news and all that, and then you argue about it in the comments. So if you do have some opinions on your own, leave them down in the comments, and if you haven't already, while you're scrolling down, why not give this video a like, and subscribe, and get that bell on, so you never miss out on a future video. Massive thanks as ever go out to the good folk of Patreon, and if you do want to leave me a monthly tip, you can do so by following the link in the description, where you'll also find links to Discord and pointers to my social media and all that stuff. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. So until then, goodbye.